For 5 years, Pastor Abraham Belanger has been the lead pastor of First Fruits Community Church in Summerville. I had a chance to sit down with him for a special edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. And listen to this interview later on the free Quintin's Close-Ups iHeartRadio podcast. We're having Abraham Belanger.
Yes, God bless you.
Oh, likewise. It is so good to meet you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I know that we connected many years ago on Twitter.
Right.
And I know that you were on Twitter and you were all politics. Yeah. There was one point I'm like, leave me out of politics.
right, exactly. Yeah. I try to balance that, but yeah. Uh-huh.
But seriously, you are a husband, a father, a pastor, and obviously you're the head pastor of First Fruits Community Church in Summerville.
I am.
Who else is Reverend Belanger these days?
These days, so I'll expand a little bit on the father part, right?
Yeah.
So I have 5 kids. My oldest is a 22-year-old daughter, and my youngest is a 3-year-old daughter. Then I have a 6-year-old son, and I take care of my niece and my nephew, so 11-year-old nephew and 13-year-old niece. So that keeps me pretty busy in the pastoral role. We're really growing, so I'm doing a lot in that role. And I'm a husband, but outside of that too, I work for one of the world's largest hospitality companies called IHG.
Oh yeah.
I'm a senior training consultant. I've been with them for about 15 years now, and I cover the Southeast. And I'll go out and I travel and train general managers, hotel leaders on how to, hire the right teams.
Sure.
Keep them involved and engaged and recognized so they can really be a profitable company. So that keeps me pretty busy. And outside of that, doing some of the other little projects and stuff here and there.
Here and there. What biblical verse would you describe yourself right now as?
Ooh, that's really good. That's really, really good. Because I've actually been looking at some scriptures and thinking okay, where am I at right now? And I really feel like the best verse that kind of represents where I am as a man of God, as a leader, is probably right in the beginning with Joshua.
Right.
So when Moses passes away in Joshua chapter 1, where it says, okay, Moses is gone, right? But now it's your turn. You have the lead, and it's your turn to take my people over into the promised land.
Right.
And God tells them, don't fear, as I was with Moses, I'll be with you. And so I'm really in that state of taking the people that God has brought to me to lead and helping them reach their destiny, helping them tap into their purpose, helping them grow and develop the gifts that God has already put in them so that it can be not only a gift to the body of Christ, but a gift to our community and really impact people's lives. So I think that's kind of like Joshua, just the whole first chapter. You can take that whole chapter and pick it apart. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. That's so great to hear. You touched on it a little bit. I want to go back to the church, First Fruits Community Church, because I went on your Facebook page, and obviously you touched on the mission just a second ago, but it's, quote, to bring people into relationship with Jesus Christ and with the family of God, to develop their spiritual maturity and help them discover their purpose, to lead them into their life mission and glorify God through the whole process.
Yes.
What is the process right now for First Fruits Community Church?
Right. So God about 5 years ago led me to start up the work. Gave me the name of the church, First Fruits, which is really a principle of, Christ was the first fruits from the dead, and then anybody that comes after him, we're blessed, we're called out.
Sure.
So our process right now is we're really seeking and helping to bring people into relationship with Christ, and when they do that, we teach them the principles of loving God. And when you love God, you automatically love people, right? And not just people that look like you, sound like you, have the same background as you, but all people. So breaking down those cultural barriers, those gender barriers, all of those different things that kind of separate people, even denominational and traditional barriers. We're teaching people that when you have God's love and when you love Him, you really love each other. And you grow, you grow in spiritual maturity, right? Just like a baby's born, the baby grows over time. Same with us, so as believers, we have to grow. So we do a lot of teaching, helping people to really dig deep into God's Word and see what it looks like to grow. And we help people identify, what are their gifts. Like some people don't even really know what their gifts are, and we help walk them through that process and then start to find ways to develop them so they can put those gifts to use. And then it's kind of like a cycle. Then we help them reach others to bring in to enter into that same journey. So we call that journey love, grow, serve, and go. And they kind of fall into the cycle. And that's really the whole process for everybody that comes to our church, that gets involved in our ministry, and begins their life journey.
What has your journey been like thus far?
Oh, right. Well, so it's funny. I was thinking about that before I came here. So give you a little bit of background of like where I was born. I was born in a little town called Watkins Glen, New York. Upstate New York. Everybody thinks of city. There's more cows and horses. And we had like one traffic light when I was a kid. And I grew up there for the first 10 years of my life. My mom worked 3 full-time jobs. My dad was and still is in the music industry. And so when they separated, my mom remarried, and we ended up moving to Columbia, South Carolina. And as a youth, I had a lot of just issues. I had abandonment issues. I had rejection issues. And I started forming anger and all these things. Long story short, I started hanging out with the wrong crowds, getting in a lot of trouble. I was in and out of jail. I was facing 77 years in prison at the age of 18. All my charges were dropped. I got saved halfway into my probation when I was 18 years old. And then I didn't really have a church background, so I didn't know anything about church. But God just kind of brought me in, shifted and changed my whole life. So I went to Bible college for a few years and got into the ministry. And I've been preaching since I was about 20. And then I moved to Summerville when I got married in 2003. And and then since then, I've just been really growing in the Lord. And then when God really put and impressed upon my spirit to start this work, about 5 years ago, my wife and I, we launched out by faith, and we just started off in a small little old Greyhound bus station. We took it, converted it, and now we not only have that unit, but we have a youth center, and we're actually getting ready to expand our church. So God has just really been growing us. It's been a pretty awesome journey. It's a faith journey, so you always have ups and downs, but I've learned through it all that, if God tells you something, or if you really feel passionate about something, that you just got to take action on it. Like faith without works is really dead. Right. So, that's kind of like, just kind of where I'm at in my whole process and a little bit about my journey so far. I'm just really looking forward to the vision and where we're going.
I want to get back to Columbia for just a second.
Yeah.
You talk about the vision. What is the vision for First Fruits Community Church?
Mm-hmm. So our vision is to be, and I always say this, the center. So the center of fellowship, the center of discipleship, the center of ministry and evangelism in Summerville. Now, so there's many great churches, many organizations are doing great things, but we want to be known to be the center of fellowship. Like we want, when churches look at us or when people look at us, I really want them to be able to say, wow, like this is how God really expects his church to be, and this is how he wants it. We can pattern our ministry after them, or we can take some of the things they're doing and and integrate that into our ministry to help it grow in this area. And so we want to be that center of fellowship and discipleship, right? Ministry and evangelism. So that's really our big long-term vision. I always believe in thinking big and working in the small. So we think big, we have big plans, but then we execute it out in these small steps along the way. So good.
And I want to go back to Columbia, South Carolina, because I thought I read somewhere that you went over to Right Direction Church recently.
Yes.
I just met the Baileys, I guess last year.
Really? Okay.
Right here in Charleston. They're great people. I used to watch them all the time when they were on television here on Channel 4.
Mm-hmm.
But I know you went there recently because a special guest was there.
Yes, Dr. Shane Perry. Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I've actually known Bishop Bailey for many years because I got saved in Columbia. And I remember when he was like years ago, over 20 years ago, his ministry was just really getting up, and going, and it was growing really fast. And I would watch him and learn a lot from him. And then it was just really nice to go back there and visit and hear one of my mentors, Dr. Shane Perry, preach. And I had experience to see wow, look where his church is now. Like he's really took the vision God gave him and grew it big time. So yeah, it was really good to kind of hang out with Bishop Bailey and and First Lady Bailey, and along with Dr. Shane Perry. And then, of course, he came down and preached for us, too, which was really cool. So,
And you talk about steps. Obviously, at First Fruits Community Church, I know that recently you have a Discovery 101 class, and the class is designed to cover the fundamentals of what we believe in and why giving you an opportunity to learn the Word of God and get a feel for our ministry.
Right.
How's that class so far? What would you give yourself as far as a letter grade?
I think, so we actually did a class last night, and pretty much everybody in that class was brand new. So they never come to that class before. They're not even members yet. So it's kind of a twofold class, first of all. So the first part of the class is like anybody that's looking for a church home, I really believe like before they join somewhere, they need to learn about that house and what they believe in and why. Right. They need to have a place, a safe haven where they can actually ask questions about things they may not know or understand. So that's one of the purposes of the class, to help people make a decision, like maybe this is the place for me, or maybe it's not. And either way is okay with us. But it's also designed for any new members to come in and just really get that good core fundamental belief. So I would give myself an A only because like everybody like really said it was a really great class last night, and that tends to be kind of the trend when people come. It's just a really fun time. We spent about 2 hours and we just get into a lot of the fundamental beliefs, of the scriptures.
And obviously, you talked about it just a second ago, but questions. People still have questions about God, Jesus Christ, the church. What more questions do you have right now?
What questions do I have?
Yes, sir.
About God?
Yes,
or
Jesus. What more do you need to learn?
Man, I have so much more to learn. I'm a big believer, like you never stop growing, you never stop learning. And I really think like I'm in a place of like, what does it look like to be a really true and effective pastor, shepherd, leader? And what I've been finding is he's been taking me back into his word, and we're currently doing a study now, a series on the Gospels, the harmony of the Gospels. Right. So we've took a chronological approach to the Gospels, and we're really looking at the life and the ministry of Christ, our shepherd.
Yes.
And as I'm going through and teaching the rest of the congregation, it's like God is like teaching me and showing me, here's what it looks like. Here's how you really help people. Here's how you walk alongside those that have been abandoned or rejected or feel like they're not worth anything. Like we see all of these examples of Christ. And so I think that's like my big focus right now is like, okay, Lord, what does this look like? Because I had two pastors. I had a pastor, Bishop William Lee Bonner in Columbia. He passed away. And then my wife's grandfather, Bishop Herbert C. Hayward, who was in Summerville at Refuge Bible Way Church, and he just recently passed away. So those were my two pastor leaders. I never had any other pastors. And for a while, I'm like, man, I need a pastor. But God was like, you're the man now. You're the pastor now. So what I'm learning is he's my shepherd, and I'm just drawing everything I can from him so I can become just like those great men of God and really impact and influence a lot of people's lives. So that's kind of like what I'm searching and going after, and that intimacy and that closeness with God, because I know that's what it takes to really truly lead people the way God wants them led.
And you talk about leading. Obviously, I want to take it back to just yesterday. I believe you preached a sermon called Prepared for Suddenly.
Ooh, yes. Right.
What still plays in your mind about that particular sermon?
Well, I just find it really interesting. In that sermon, I came from 2 Chronicles chapter 29. I was just talking about how the king, previous to Hezekiah, introduced a lot of idol worship and just kind of caused the people of God to go into this dark place. And, God allowed some judgments to take place. But it came to a place of time where God appointed King Hezekiah to come in and clean the temple and restore worship in the temple back there in the Old Testament. And what was really interesting was a couple things. It's like, when you think about preparation always takes time, right? But then when you think about something that happens suddenly, this is like in the snap of a finger, a miracle can happen. Yes. Doors can open up, right? So how do you bring those two together? How do we, as the people of God, be prepared for the suddenly? So we have to check ourselves. We got to clean make sure our temples are clean. Always really try to get closer to God, because at any time, God is really sitting and waiting and preparing and ready to usher in a new revival. he wants to see his people come together, and we have to be prepared people for that, because he is really getting ready to do something suddenly. So I talked about how there wasn't enough ministers, and how God used some of the Levites to come in and do what the few couldn't do, and how they came together and the people rejoiced because God had prepared the people for that sudden move of restoration and renovation and revival. So it was a pretty impactful sermon. It spoke to me first. That's why I knew it was going to be powerful and impactful to the people of God.
And it was, from what I understand. I know that you were on Twitter, you were all in that political mode.
Yeah. That's
important. And there's so much going on right now in politics and in general in this world.
All right.
What is that sermon you would preach to the world right now if you had that opportunity?
That's good. That's a good question. That's a good question. So if I had an opportunity to speak openly to both sides, all political parties, everybody, I think my message would be love in action. Because our political leaders that we elect, they are called to represent us and represent their constituents. So, for example, like if I believe in certain things, and then I look at who's running for an office, then I'm probably going to select a candidate that most fits my belief, right? And it doesn't matter what side you're on, but whoever goes up there should really represent the people. So, what we see is that for a lot of political reasons they don't, and that's a whole nother topic. But what happens is they get up there and they get caught up in all the politics, and they forget why they're there in public service in the first place. They're there to serve the people. And what we see now is this polarized, I'll just say this polarized America. You have one side that strongly believing in one thing, another side over here, and then you got some independent groups, and everybody's just clashing. Now, we can bring it's a very spiritual. There's a warfare going on. In the last days, the Bible talks about ethnicity rising up against ethnicity, and we've seen that. I mean, it's no strange thing, but we see the intensification of it right now. Like, we could look back 4 years ago, 6 years ago, and yeah, there was always been racial tension. There's always been, this issue between, with abortion and, pro-life or pro-choice, and you have all these things going on. But all of a sudden, we just see this intensification of all of this evil. And what's happening in the political side is, what I believe is that people are kind of falling back into their core beliefs, and they're bringing that stuff to the political realm, forgetting that they're supposed to really be bringing compassion to the plate, right? And so, for example, let's just talk about the big thing, like most preachers don't really want to talk about because they don't want to try to take sides, but I just believe in what's right. This whole wall that President Trump is talking about, right? So, talking about building the wall. Yeah, we should have border security. We should make sure our nation is safe. But does that mean that we create this tone that like certain people aren't even welcome? Like, I think anybody should be welcome to the United States. If anything, we drove out the people that originally were here. And when I say we, I mean like the Caucasians came and drove the Indians out, murdering mass millions, right? And we see the slave trade, right? We see all this stuff going on, and then what happens? Now, like, there's this preaching, or there's this political move, like, oh, this is our land, and it is, but we can't let so many people in, but through a certain process. Now, there needs to be a process, but there should be no alienation of people. That's why I said I would preach like love in action, which is really the word compassion. Like, if we're really about, making America great, if we're really about making sure people are cared for and taken care of, then we got to get down to the core root of the issues and then actually deal with that. And the problem in our politics is there's so much influence that even if people want to do that, most of the times they don't, unless they're courageous enough to step up for what is right, regardless. So, like, we have to take a stand. I think from the outside looking in, even as religious leaders, whatever you want to call it, we need to lift up our voice against immigration. Like, we got to say, look, we need people in this country, and we need to love the people that are currently here. Like, I saw last night a video of this man getting reunited with his son because they were separated. I don't know all the ins and outs of the story. And it was just, I was just crying because you could see the pain that the little boy had. from being separated from his father for however long he was, you know, due to all this whole immigration thing, right? Like, is that the right thing to do? Separate families? No, it's never the right thing to do. Like, you should never take a child away from their parents unless there's some real issues going on. So I guess what I'm trying to get to is that the message really needs, like, if we had politicians who really truly expressed love in action, like real love. I'm not talking about conditional. I'm talking about unconditional love in action. I mean, even Jesus loved his enemies. Even when Jesus was rebuking the Pharisees and the scribes and the political leaders of his day, it wasn't that he didn't love them. As a matter of fact, love will call out wrong so that things can be made right. And I think like we need to see more of that with a genuineness of heart, so that we can get past a lot of this hurt, we can heal from things, and we can really, you know, grow as a people, as a nation, and come together. Now, I do have another spiritual side of that. I think while we can achieve that to a certain extent politically, that we will never fully get there from a political stance. I know the scriptures teach different, that in the last days these things are going to happen, it's going to get worse. But that doesn't mean we just sit back and let it get worse. We do what we can to impact our world, our communities, and influence any realm we can, with the intentions of bringing the love of God into this earth realm, you know, through our giftings and through our, you know, our work in the community. And like what you're doing, you know, bridging the gap between so many different people. I just, you know, I did a little research on you too, man. I was like, man, he's out there talking to so many different people, so many walks of life, so many different beliefs. But that's what, like, we need to be able to come to a table and talk with people who believe completely opposite from us without being, like, offensive to them, without being hateful towards them. Like, if we just had more dialogue, if we had more people coming together and talking about some of these things, I think that in itself would help. You know, communication really helps bridge a lot of gaps and helps bring people into understanding of, you know, other people's lives and cultures and what means most to them. So yeah, I think like the work you're doing is pretty amazing, man.
Thank you. God is great.
Yeah, he's awesome. So I know sometimes I get real long answers. I guess it's because I'm a preacher.
No worries. No worries. This is what this goes on, so I'll let you talk as long as you want.
Right.
But let me get back to you. If you were to stand in front of your congregation right now, how would you describe your future to them?
My future to the congregation is so bright. I mean, God, I know there's an expected end. I know that I have a calling to reach people across all cultural, all denominational barriers, like to break all of that stuff down and to reach people. And I just feel like my future is so strong that anybody that's connected to my ministry or to my purpose that I'm in, and they come along and run alongside with me, they're going to go on that journey with me. They're going to see like the miraculous happen. They're going to see, you know, I think it was last year, I was asked to sit on a panel, and on that panel we had a woman who was a Muslim.
Okay.
They had myself. I was representing Christianity. We had a Jewish rabbi who's and I know this isn't. I'm just going to say he's homosexual, but he's a Jewish rabbi. So you can see like the diversity of the team that was selected to come and have a panel, right? So we had all these leaders on the panel, and it was all designed to just bring like 3 different groups together that completely like believe in different things, like may totally not run parallel at all in their beliefs, but can still come together, talk about what they believe in, have good conversation about stuff, and then talk about how do we move forward, you know? So that's just an example of like my type of ministry. I'm the type of person, I don't believe in boxing yourself in. Like my future looks like going wherever like God opens doors for me to go and to have whatever conversations that need to take place that really ultimately, you know, help people be connected to God. Because when we're connected with Him, there's no way I can hate you.
Right.
Even if I'm connected with Him and someone else isn't, that I'm in a great relationship with God and somebody doesn't even know Him and they completely believe opposite or whatever of what I believe in, that if I'm in love with God, that I can love that person so much, even if we're just totally polar opposites, that they could be my best friend, you know? So, and I just think we need more of that. And there's no way we can be in love with God and hate our brothers. Like, how can we say we love God, we've never seen Him, and then hate somebody that we see? You know, the Bible says we're liars, we're hypocrites. unfortunately, Sunday is the most segregated day of the week. You know, my church is predominantly African American. The church down the street is predominantly Caucasian. The church further down is all Korean, like just strictly Korean. You don't go to that church unless you're Korean. Like, why? It's the question. Well, it's because of all these ideologies, all of this, even some false teachings that we gotta, through love, gotta present truth and bring people together in the body of Christ so that we can get rid of this and move forward with, you know, God's ultimate plan, right? And redeeming all people back to Himself.
Exactly right.
Yeah, my future looks bright, man.
Yes.
You know, yeah, is there a fight? Yeah, there's spiritual warfare, but that's all good. I mean, yeah, that's what it's about. You know, I always liked a good fight even before I got saved. Like, because the victory is even greater.
Amen. I agree with that.
Yep.
Well, Reverend Abraham Belanger, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate this.
Quintin, you're awesome, man.
Well,
Like, and just, you know, keep doing what you're doing, because this is really so important. It's really valuable, because if people don't talk, if people don't share, all it's going to do is they'll just start bottling up their feelings. They'll start believing in other things that may not be full truth, and all of a sudden you got just this clashing. I mean, one thing I do want to say that I'm really proud of, just from a Charleston perspective, is like, you know, unfortunately, you know, when Dylan Roof came and, you know, and killed, you know, the people in Mother Emanuel Church, you know, it was so tragic. And I was watching it as it unfolded, you know, on the news that night. I was up all night. I was just, because I've always been passionate about, you know, race relations and things of that sort. You know, but as I was watching it and I was talking back and forth with people, Al Jazeera Network called me from New York City. Now, Al Jazeera Network has almost like I think it was like a 91% Muslim viewers, right? And so I was like, wow, this is pretty interesting. Like, why would Al Jazeera call me and ask me to go on live to talk about what's going on down here? Like, I don't even live in Charleston. I live in Summerville. You know, I'm like I'm connected, but I'm not. You know, I'm like, wow. But somehow or another, they knew I was involved, and like this door opened up for me to go live on the network and just, you know, talk about the response already and how people are, instead of, you know, rioting or getting upset and doing crazy things, how actually everybody just started coming together. So I was able to get on a platform like that and just share about like what real love looks like, what real forgiveness looks like. In the worst chaotic situation, people came together here in Charleston. Then Roland Martin calls me up and he's like, come on TV News 1 now. And he brought me on 2 days in a row and talked about it. And I just think like we need to do more things like that. And I think, you know, Charleston has a lot of potential to keep that up, to come together, to address real issues, whether it's politically, religiously, you know, from a gender perspective, whatever perspective. We really need to come together and have more dialogue, just like we came together. We shouldn't wait for tragedy to come together. All right, we should continue to come together like we're doing now, have great conversations about the future, right? The future of Charleston, the future of the people that live here, so that we can make things better for our kids. You know, I got, like I said before, I have a 3-year-old. What's it going to look like when my daughter's 18? You know, it's really up to how we shape it and shape this community and shape this world. So yeah, I'm really passionate about that. You know, but I think, man, you got to keep doing this, man. You got to keep doing these Quintin close-ups, because they're powerful. You have some great content out there, and I would just say, even push your limits, and you know, reach out to people that maybe wouldn't even think about even sitting down and talking. And because I think the more we do that, then things will open up and dialogue will be made, and you know, God works in those areas. So
yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Well, and thank you for this.
Yeah, thank you, Quintin.
Anytime.
God bless you, man.
Likewise.
Appreciate you.
Anytime.